As we go through life, it's so easy for us to forget some of the small things that we are. We may lose our identity based upon decisions that we made, decisions that we're making, or the decisions that we may make in the future. One thing I do want to do is I want to remind you of what Jesus has called for each and every one of us to be. We're going to read from Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16. I'm coming from the NIV. It says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Amen. That is awesome. That is so much in that. Jesus was preparing in the very beginning of Matthew 5 to talk about or to give the Sermon on the Mount, where he gave his famous, or I would say the well-known Beatitudes. He talked about blessed are the poor, and blessed are the meek, blessed are the pure, blessed are so many different things. And he gave so many different nuggets in that moment. But one of the things that I want to point out is when we look at salt, sometimes we look at salt and we think of it as a preservative. It's a preservative that used to be used back in the day, like way back in the day, before there were refrigerators or things of that nature, to preserve things, to preserve meats, to preserve different types of foods. But when we think about salt in this context, where it says you are, me and you are the salt of the earth, that means that we are giving grace. We're giving that good speech, grace in our speech to other people, so that people can get that. When grandma used to make that good meal, that seasoning that made things taste good. There's a conversation that we may be having today with people that may not agree with us, or they may be trying to throw a little vinegar at us, or they're trying to throw different things at us. But it's up to us to continue to be the salt of the earth. And it says in verse 13, it says, how can it be made salty again if salt loses its saltiness? That's a really good one. That's a really good question. Jesus, whenever he's teaching, sometimes he'll draw a point from a question. If salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? Yeah, I don't know. It's a really good question. If we no longer give grace to people as we ask God to give us grace, how can we ever ask for the grace or expect for people or for things to be gracious to us? How can we I'm going to fast forward a little to Matthew 6, where it talks about being boastful, being where we're asking God to do different things through us, and we're just parading it everywhere. How are we able to show people Jesus when we are not even acting like him? This is a reminder for us. Every single day we have to make the decision to deny ourselves and pick up our cross and follow Jesus. There's so many times, there's so many temptations that come our way. There's so many options that we have, especially living in America. We have so many choices. Think about when you ask the question to a group or to your significant other, what do you want to eat? We have so many choices. But what God is saying to us, he says, you are the light of the world. So people are going to come up to you because they see the light in you. And it's regardless of what you look like, what your ethnicity is, whatever it is, they are able to see light in you because Jesus says that we are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. So if you see a town on a hill, it's attractive. People are going to look and say, there's something about you. There's something in you that's different. They may strike up a conversation when you don't even feel like talking. What are you going to do? It says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds, verse 16, and glorify your Father in heaven. What are we doing with our lives that is allowing our light to shine before others, so that they may see the light in us and be able to glorify God in heaven? There's things about us that we need to work on. Verse 16 is a really good wake-up call. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. It's time to let the light shine. As I mentioned several different times before, we're lit, living in truth. Jesus says that I am the way, the truth, and the light. So we have truth in us and we have light in us. How are we letting it come out? And if we haven't let it come out, it's not too late. Will we? Are we willing to let the light shine so that everyone else can see the light in us and walk in the power and the authority that God has given every single one of us? Let's go. It's not too late to switch that light on. Let the light turn on. It wants to come out, but we're suppressing it by trying to do things our own way. We're suppressing it by conforming to the world, where book of Romans talks about, be not conformed to the world, but be renewed by the transforming of your mind, by the renewal of your mind. Romans 12:2. It talks about that. What are we doing to renew and transform our mind to where we can be the light of the world as Jesus calls us to be?